Hello, and welcome to Mocktails and Masterpieces. I hope you have something to enjoy. Maybe put your feet up. My name is David Murray. I am the principal bassist of the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra, and it's a pleasure to be guest hosting this evening. I also have with me one of my favorite people and colleagues in the Chamber Orchestra. She is sort of my stand partner because we are usually situated right next to each other, and that is our harpist, Wendy Muston. Hello, Wendy. How are you?
Hi, David. It's great to be here with you today.
So it's a pleasure having you. And I know that you are performing music tonight with Margie Hanna, who is also such a dear friend of both of ours. She's our principal cellist. She just couldn't be with us here on the Zoom tonight, but I know it's going to be a real treat hearing the two of you play. Since we're talking about that and talking about Margie, I think that Margie and you have played quite a lot over the years and
We have.
developed a really great, rapport and everything. What do you enjoy about playing with cello?
I think that the harp and cello are a perfect combination. The harp is very sonorous and ringing, and the cello has such a deep, rich, and mellow sound that the two partners very, very well. And Margie and I couldn't be better friends. We went to college together. We were at Indiana University School of Music together and have known each other all these many years and have toured together with various musicians, played in the chamber orchestra forever. And we've been making duet music since we were babies. And so,
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've played with you a lot, of course, and played with Margie. And I know the first time that I met Margie, which was not long after I moved here, we clicked like instantly. We didn't say a thing, and our playing was so in sync. It was amazing.
that's Margie.
Mhm.
It's so easy to be in sync with her, to almost not have to think about it. It becomes just a feel thing, the way music should be.
Right.
Partnerships with her are very special, musical partnerships and giggle partnerships and road trip partnerships and all the other good things that come from playing in a duo together for years.
Well, what can you tell us about this first clip this evening? I think we're going to listen to a prelude and a sonata back to back.
Sure. Sure. We're going to start with a prelude in classic style. It's just an upbeat piece. We love to start performances with this. It's in the key of C major and C minor, and was written by Gordon Young for the organ. And many things written for the organ work really well for harp and cello. And for us, we take the organ music and we just arrange it between the two of us. And over the years, we just naturally decide who's going to play what, who's going to play what harmony, who's going to play the melody, and it just works. Like I said, when I play with Margie, we don't so much think about it as just perform. The second piece is Sonata for Violoncello and Harp by Mario Castelnuovo Tedesco, and he is an Italian composer, but moved to the United States during just before World War II, and was very active composing music for movies in Hollywood. He always believed in the classical music sense that he was an artist, and felt that at the time movies were the art of the United States, just like opera was the art in Europe. That movies would have to become that art. And in addition to that, some of his students, you might be surprised, some of his students were John Williams, Andre Previn, Henry Mancini, and several others. He was very influential in that world on the West Coast and in classical music.
Wow, that really connects nicely with the opening to our season back last, what was it, September, October, where we had the music of immigrants. And a lot
Absolutely.
of them went to Hollywood, like Waxman, for instance, and
Absolutely.
were working in the movies coming from
Absolutely.
Europe before the Second World War broke out in Europe. So that's exciting. It's kind of a nice
He
tie-in.
had written, I think, extensively for Jascha Heifetz, and I think he helped Mario Castelnuovo immigrate to the United States.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, let's listen to some music. I think there's a clip from Matthew Kramer before we hear the music. So let's jump to that.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matthew Kramer. I'm the music director of the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra. It's just wonderful to see all of you. Thank you to Joyce and Jeffrey for hosting this event, the first live music that I've actually seen outside of my own scratchy violin playing in the last 4 months. I see so many familiar faces that take me a moment to recognize now that this world has changed so dramatically within the last 4 months. Just to let you know that the Chamber Orchestra is committed to staying connected with all of our patrons. You can find our presence, in particular, every Thursday at 6 p.m. We have a Mocktails and Masterpiece program where I talk to one of my colleagues in the orchestra, and we play a video of previous ICO performances. We also have our Monday night radio broadcast, which I advertise Mondays at 1 p.m. So we're committed to staying connected with all of you in these times where it's hard to perform with a live audience. We are optimistic that we'll return in some form in October. We've moved our concert series to Clues Hall, where we can socially distance our audience and our musicians safely. Of course, all of this is kept in mind with what is most safe and practical for our audiences so that we all remain safe. But we are committed to keeping our music going in these times where we can't play for large audiences without masks or without social distancing. And I'm delighted now to introduce two of my marvelous colleagues who are the backbone of the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra. Please welcome Marjorie Hanna and Wendy Muston. Take it away.
Well, that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Wendy, and thank you, Margie. Can you tell us, Wendy, a little bit about this concert? It was at the home of one of our ICO supporters and audience members.
Yes, it was at the home of Joyce and Jeff Piepert, and they have recently moved to Indianapolis in the last couple of years, I believe, from St. Louis, where they were very much involved in the musical scene there. I think their children were all played classical instruments. I believe Joyce plays the cello as well.
Oh, that's good.
And you may have noticed the dog Jack Piepert moving in and out of the instruments. He's very comfortable in the classic music scene and makes himself at home and is quite lovely, quite a wonderful little guy. So I think that Joyce and Jeff have, since they moved to Indianapolis, really enjoyed the chamber orchestra, and we enjoy having them on board. They have a beautiful garden. And as Mrs. Piepert said in her remarks before we started, she was just noticing this beautiful garden, so beautifully tended, and yet no one was there. So she wanted to have a reason to share that, and was thinking about all of the musicians and artists who are working behind the scenes right now and not able also to share the labors of their work. And so she thought she could put the two together, and it was a lovely afternoon.
That's nice. I think the only people sharing my garden, or the only things sharing my garden, are the rabbits and squirrels and chipmunks. And I don't want them to
spray for that.
too much. So that sort of begs the question: what's the big difference, or what are the big differences between playing indoors and playing outside?
When you're playing indoors, the temperature stays the same, the humidity level stays the same. When you play outdoors, which occurs in Indiana, that occurs in the warm months, and there's likely to be a lot of humidity in the air. My harp is strung with the first two octaves are nylon, almost like fishing line. They're gauged. Each longer string is a little bit wider, but they stay fairly stable in that weather. The strings from my second octave through my fifth octave are all natural gut strings. And they're natural gut strings because they have a richer, mellower sound. They ring out better in that range. But, on a really humid day, you can just watch the string unwind. And the harp tends to go out of tune a little bit as you play. But we were in the shade in this concert, and I didn't notice much detuning.
Well, that's good.
And yeah. I'll blame anything that you don't like in the concert. I was a little detuning. It was a little.
Yeah, as a bass, we have steel strings. And being the bass and the longer strings, they tend to hold the pitch a little bit better.
Our lower octave and a half are silk core with a steel winding. So those strings in the bass stay fairly stable.
Yeah, good. So what about the acoustics outdoors?
Well, it was lovely because our sound was bouncing right off their home, and there were a lot of windows there. So it was really a lovely acoustic, and it was kind of a narrow yard. I thought it was lovely. And also we were very lucky to have George there managing the sound. It was a bit amplified. So it depends where you are outside, right? How the acoustics are. But if there's something behind you, as a harpist or a string group, it's always nicer to have something that's bouncing it forward.
Right. I know inside we're used to sound resonating, where outdoors it just kind of goes.
Right.
Different. Right. So, well, let's set up this next clip. What can you tell us about the music we're going to hear in this set?
You are going to hear The Trees on the Mountain, which is an aria from Carlisle Floyd's Susanna, his opera Susanna. Susanna is based on the apocryphal Susanna and the Elders. It's very touching. It's a deeply moving opera about a young woman who lives in a cabin in Appalachia, Tennessee, with her brother. The parents have been deceased. So this young woman and this young man live a very simple life, you know, in the hills. They go into town for church and for supplies. And the church women gossip about her because she's so beautiful, and they're very jealous of her. An itinerant preacher comes to town, and while he's gathered the church folk out in the stream, unbeknownst to Susanna, Susanna goes to the stream to bathe, as she always does, in the privacy of, you know, the area where they live. They spy her, and they decide to vilify her. And the opera gets worse for Susanna. Things get worse for Susanna. She is ostracized. The preacher comes to apologize to her later, but realizes the brother's not there and rapes her. And it's exceptionally sad, because in the end, she becomes the hardened, angry person that they accused her of being, simply because of the way they treated her. It's very sad. It was written during the McCarthy era, so you can draw whatever conclusions you want to draw from that.
Yeah, we played the opera, it's several years ago.
Right.
I remember doing that right there in Clues Hall. So
I think he wrote it in maybe 1955. It premiered, and it did not premiere at the Metropolitan Opera until the 1990s. But it has become one of the best known operas in the American literature.
yeah, some very beautiful, but also some very intense music in this.
Yeah, and The Trees in the Mountain is Susanna's aria, where she's come back, dear lover, come back, my flame, my heart's calling, and it's written like an old Appalachian ballad, although it is Carlisle Floyd's own composition. Beautiful piece.
Is that the only music in this clip? I thought we were listening.
No, we also are playing aria by Medinch. Medinch is a Latvian composer. He lived through part of the occupation of the USSR into Latvia. And during that time, he was a refugee and ended up living in, I believe, Switzerland for the rest of his life. But in the early years, he's not unlike musicians in this COVID time. In the early years, he was not just a college professor, not just a professor of music, and not just a composer. And he played the cello and he played the piano, but he also sold pig food in the market. And he sold flour in the market. And I think maybe he watched the neighbor's pigs or something. So, in this time of COVID, musicians, we'll do whatever we have to do, right?
Right.
We do whatever we have to do. But his music is very beautiful and very haunting. So we're going to be playing his famous aria. And then we're going to hear It's a Wonderful World, made so famous by Louis Armstrong, written by Bob Thiele.
Great. So I think we have the Manich first, and then the Carlisle Floyd, Susanna, and then It's a Wonderful World. So, What a Wonderful World. So let's hear this next set of music.
Okay, these times are crazy. Raise your hand if you think these times are crazy. Crazy, crazy, right? But I have never been closer to the beauty of my own backyard, and oh, thank you so much for sharing yours with us. Beautiful. And I have never known so many 4, 5, and 6 mile walking paths near my house. I know where all the neighbors live. And there are parts of this crazy time that I hope always stay with us, including the sure knowledge that this is a wonderful world. What a wonderful world.
Well, again, really beautiful music this evening.
Thank you, David.
So I want to thank Wendy Muston for being here this evening. This is wonderful. I want to thank our dear friend Margie Hanna for performing on this concert. That's always such a treat. I know Matthew Kramer will be back with us here next week. Looking forward to that. And I do certainly want to thank Lee Clifford for being our producer, director, and running the show behind the scenes. We couldn't do all this without him. So I hope everybody stays well, stays healthy. We'll get through this together, everyone, and we'll keep the music coming one way or another. So thank you all for being here. Everybody, I hope you have a great evening.
Stay well.